Good morning. This is your clerk with the courtesy announcement that we are now live on the internet.
Good morning, Ms. Kaminsky. Would you like to do a mic check?
Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Glass. Would you like to do a mic check?
Good morning. How is everybody?
Good, very good, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Thompson. Would you like to do a mic check?
Hi.
Thank you.
That wasn't me, but I'm here.
That was
Sorry, it was Brittany. I just logged in. I thought you were talking to me. So
okay, thank you. And Ms. Thompson, we can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Heffington. Would you like to do a mic check? Mr. Heffington, would you like to do a mic check?
This is Sylvia.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. We can hear you.
Am I coming through now?
Yes, Mr. Heffington, we
Thank
can
you.
hear you.
Sylvia, I see you on my screen twice. Are you logged in twice? And now I just see one.
Yeah, so
you.
I was having a lot of difficulty coming on, and so I'm not sure if other people were challenged. So I tried multiple times, and so I think what happened was it came up twice. But
Okay.
it looks like we're good now. Thank you.
Yes, it's resolved. Thank you.
Morning, Suwana. Would you like to do a mic check?
Good morning. Can you hear me? This is Swanford.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Joseph. Would you like to do a mic check?
Good morning. Yes, that's a good idea.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Anciano. Would you like to do a mic check?
Good morning. Yes, I would like to do a mic check. Hello.
Hello, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Mr. Freitas. Would you like to do a mic check?
Checking.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisor Wasserman. Oh, you're on mute.
Ta-da! Oh, I made it at 10:00:59. I didn't count on when I went to get on. It said, updating your Zoom.
Oh, it likes to do that.
And I saw the bar going by like this.
And it likes to do it right at meeting time.
Yes. Yes, indeed. All right, so I am there and the full house is here. I'm looking for one Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, we are waiting for him.
Ah, okay. Well, I would have never lived that down had I been later than he. There's Mr. Don Rocha, surrounded by poison ivy and poison oak, excuse me, no poison ivy on the West Coast. And there's Supervisor Schmidt. All right, let's start this meeting. We'll call to order and a roll call, please.
Recording in progress.
One moment, please.
Thank you, Nancy.
Vice Chairperson Simidian
Here.
and Chairperson Wasserman.
Here as well. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us today. We now move on to item number 2, which is public comment about anything not on today's agenda relevant to the County of Santa Clara. You can even say go 49ers. All right. I see one member of the public. Is that what you see, Nancy?
Yes, I do.
Would you please allow that individual to have 3 minutes to address
Absolutely.
this committee?
Blair Beekman, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the meeting today. I had just a couple of items that I wish I had spoke at public comment time more often, and especially this week, but I figured it'd be a good time just to bring up a couple items for myself. One is that for your Board of Supervisors closed session reports, report outs to the public, I'm not being able to find how I can get information what exactly the closed meeting session is about that you will be talking about each other week. And so I'm talking with the Board of Operations right now. Maybe you can pass along to them different ways, or you can explain here at this time, but if not at this time, you can mention to the Board of Operations what can be ways that I can understand what exactly is happening at your closed session meetings. I mean, to get a basic overview should be standard practices, and I'm having difficult finding that at this time.
Blair,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer that when your time is up. Just stay on the line.
Thank you. My second question is that I'm interested in the question of, I've come to just sort of, I've learned to accept yourselves working with Dominion voting, situations, their polling practices and their equipment and stuff. And you guys made a big push for that in the past, 5 or 6, 7, 8 years. And I'm more of a write-in ballot person. I figure that's a basis of how to start things. And Dominion has made it a real point that they are going to use those see-through ballots where the pen mark leaks through to the other side. I'm not so mad at Dominion about issues. I don't want to hold them, so angry. But it's these refined points that I think we have to have an open discussion about. I've attended some of the electoral commission meetings on the subject, so you are working on it, I know. But it's just a matter of, I think we really have to address the bleed through issue on the ballots of Dominion ballots. And there's ways to do that, and I'd like to hear what you guys have already worked on with the issue and how it can be resolved, just to have the added extra help of a good ballot that's very clear and understandable for counting purposes. Thanks.
All right, Blair, hold on there. Hope you can still hear me. In general, and these three things will cover 99% of what we discuss in closed session. We cover personnel and labor issues, land transactions, and legal actions. And that's what the law allows us to discuss in closed session. I hope you heard that. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. I don't have any other members of the public, Nancy. Let's move on to the consent calendar. Supervisor Schmidt, we have items 9 through 13 currently on our agenda. Did you wish to hear number 7?
Hang on just a moment, please, sir.
Sure. And if you do, that's fine. I just thought it might be.
I am okay moving that to consent if that's your preference as chair, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
If you would like, I can offer a motion to
please
approve the consent calendar as contained in our published agenda and including number 7 as per your suggestion.
As usual, perfectly stated. I will second that motion and ask Nancy for a roll call vote.
Vice Chairperson Simidian?
Aye.
And Chairperson Wasserman?
Aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love these roll call votes that only have 2 people. I sit on some committees with 20. It takes forever. All right, we're now going to move on to item number 4 in our agenda, which is to receive a report from the Department of Planning and Development with its leader, Jacqueline Onciano, here relating to the Stanford University Community Plan update. Supervisor Simidian, would you like to speak first or hear from Jacqueline first?
No, let's hear from staff first. I would like to ask, however, because I expect we're going to hear from the folks at the university, if we could ask the folks at the university to, after the staff presentation, when you call for public comment, to let us know who's available, who's on the call, who's in the meeting, so we know who we have as resources from the university to ask questions of if there's a little back and forth that we need. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Director.
Good morning, Jacqueline Onciano, Director of Planning and Development for Santa Clara County. With us this morning is Brittany Bendex, Principal Planner with M Group, along with Sean Manello, who is an Associate Planner with M Group. We have Sylvia Gallegos, our Deputy County Executive, along with Lisa Mikhail, she's not a principal anymore. She's our Planning Services Manager and Deputy Director. We are prepared to present this item to you, and we will be available for any questions afterwards. And Brittany, if you would please take the lead, we appreciate that.
Great. Good morning, Chairperson Wasserman and Vice Chairperson Simidian. Thank you for having us. Again, I'm Brittany Bendix, Principal Planner from M Group, and I have just a quick update, verbal update for you today. Since the last HULIT update on May 19th, we have had the following opportunities for the public to provide feedback in the SCP update process. This includes a community meeting to discuss the graduate student housing affordability study on May 19th, a community meeting to discuss the child care study on May 25th, Planning Commission study session focused on these special studies on May 26th, Planning Commission study session focused on a high-level overview of the policy changes on July 14th, and Planning Commission study session focused on the Housing and Circulation chapter text changes on August 4th. So at the moment, we are also preparing a Planning Commission study session for August 31st, where we will then share the proposed text changes for the remaining chapters.
Brittany, if I may interrupt for 1 minute.
Sure.
Anyone listening to this that wishes to speak on public comment after staff's report, please register electronically. Thank you, Brittany. Go right ahead.
Sure. So I just wanted to touch on the fact that throughout this process, we've also received feedback from Stanford. To summarize that, generally, Stanford is requesting that the county consider the following changes to the proposed housing policies. They're asking the county to consider a credit for units constructed prior to a new GUP application, providing flexibility in the location of where required housing can be located, providing flexibility in the requirement that all future affordable housing be constructed rather than contributed to through an in lieu fee, And then also relative to circulation, Stanford is requesting that the county move away from the trip-based metrics of transportation management and instead rely on a vehicle miles traveled or VMT approach. So we do anticipate receiving more feedback from Stanford and continuing that discussion, as well as the community and planning commission feedback we'll receive throughout the end of this month and further throughout this process. So next month we will be back and we intend then to provide a more detailed update, going to the issues that I've kind of already flagged for you in further detail when we see you back in September. So that concludes my report, and I am available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Principal Planner Brittany. Supervisor Smidian, do you wish to speak or do you wish to hear from the public?
The one thing I would do is I just want to say to Ms. Bendix from M Group, because I hope they know it, but it probably should be said out loud. Ms. Bendix, I just want to say thank you to M Group for the good work you and your firm have done. This has been a long process. We are at least 6 years in. If you look at the 3 years that we spent on the general use permit, which was withdrawn and which M Group played a critical role in evaluating and before it was withdrawn by the university. And then these last 3 years of effort to follow up in the way that you just described. And I often have questions. I often push back a bit, but I just want to make sure that you and your team know how valued the work has been. It has been indispensable. Our planning staff does a fine job, but they have limited bandwidth. And when a set of issues of this magnitude comes along, we really do rely on M Group to help us with this very heavy lift. So that's all I have. Mr. Chairman, might I suggest that we take any public comment and then have some conversation here at the committee level?
Absolutely. With that, Nancy, I see 2 public speakers.
That's
And
correct.
if that's what we got, then 2 minutes each.
B. Beekman, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you. Your raise hand feature is a little different today. Luckily it worked and you saw my hand raised. Thank you. I think I just, that was an interesting summary by staff, I guess, of what you've been going through with the Stanford project. I am not so much up on what you've been doing for the past few months, but it was just the summary really helped. So thank you for that. And I've always been interested in how you can rely on places like UC Davis as guidance for what you'll be doing with the future of Stanford. And a reminder that I know that students at Stanford, they can have a real vibrancy to add to this process of what you're working on. And so hopefully their voices will be heard and included, hopefully here today. And always a nice reminder in the work that they can do to add to what you're doing yourselves. So thank you for these efforts and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Erin Efner. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson Wasserman and Vice Chairperson Smidian. This is Erin Efner from Stanford's Land Use and Environmental Planning Group. And I apologize, I wasn't Supervisor Wasserman. I did not know how to register electronically. So in the future, we can make sure you follow the protocol that you want to set up. Today I have Diana Odell, our Director of Land Use from my group here on the webcast. We also have Kelly Klein, our Associate Vice President from Office of Government Affairs, and Joel Berman from our External Relations group, and that's who I'm aware has joined us today. I don't have substantive comments. I just wanted to mention that earlier this week, we sent a letter to Hewlett highlighting some of our high-level comments on some of the draft policies from the community plan amendment process. We don't have anything additional specifically we'd like to bring up at this time beyond what we mentioned in the letter, but did just want to acknowledge that we're here in attendance and listening, and we look forward to continuing the productive and collaborative engagement with staff we've had as we move through the remaining steps in the process. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erin. Nancy, that concludes our speakers.
Yes, yes, it does.
Super. I'll return now to Supervisor Simidian.
Thank you. I wonder if either Ms. Gallegos or Ms. Anshano could provide assurance, as they have in the past, that we're going to get this wrapped up before the end of the year, assuming that there's a majority vote by our Board of Supervisors to take some action. Ms. Gallegos, if I may, through the chair.
Yep.
Good morning, Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. The response I'll provide is that there's a couple of options for proceeding forward. We have been delayed, and it was unexpected because part of our housing element in the RENA cycle CEQA work was somewhat delayed because we were in negotiations with the city of San Jose for unincorporated pockets. Because as you'll recall, in this RENA cycle, our goal, along with all of the jurisdictions in California, tripled. And so our discussions with the city came to a halt when a separate but related issue about the North San Jose redevelopment agreement came to the fore. And the city's view was that the 24,000 housing units that pertain to that settlement discussion are important to the conversation about how the county and the city could work together to meet our respective RENA goals. So I'm working with staff to understand what opportunities we have to accelerate CEQA in order to meet the end of the year target. We absolutely can bring forward the policies by the end of the year. It's our ability to sync it with CEQA. And I'll leave it at that for the moment, and interested in having a conversation with you with respect to that.
Ms. Gallegos, Ms. Anshano, I want to be very clear here. We need this before our Board of Supervisors before December 31st of this year. Period, full stop, notwithstanding any other issues, any extraneous considerations. This has been a 6-year conversation, as I know you know, Ms. Gallegos, because you've had to stand knee deep in it for those 6 years. But we have, as you know, 2 board members who may or may not be here. One of them definitely won't be. We're going to lose the institutional knowledge and memory and experience of Mr. Wasserman. That's the guy I'm looking at, because he has been the chair of this committee. He served on this committee. He's heard these Stanford matters. I don't know who his replacement will be. That's up to the voters, but he or she will not have any of that background. Zero, zip, none. And we may be without a board member if Supervisor Chavez is elected as opposed to her opponent. I have no way of knowing who the voters in San Jose are going to pick, but that would leave us then with only 4 members, making it tougher to get 3 votes to do anything, as you know, and one of whom would be wholly unfamiliar with this issue. That is not fair to the university. It is not fair to the public. And it is not fair to the board, all due respect. Now, if it sounds like I'm a little edgy on this one, it's because I am, because as you know, I've been asking every month for the last 2.5 years, are we going to get it done before the end of this year? And every single time I've asked that question, staff has assured me we were. So my expectation is that this will be heard before the end of the year, and we'll take action at that time. Mr. Wasserman, I'm hoping that's a view you share.
Yep.
I don't know, but
Yep.
I don't want to preclude your comment, Mr. Chairman.
Take yes for an answer.
All right, I'll take yes for an answer. Thank you for that. And let me just ask, I have a little bit of a concern. Speaking of new folks, want to welcome all the folks to this conversation from the university, the 4 who are participating. Thank you, Ms. Efner, for sharing the list of folks. But I worry a little bit that many of the conversations we had with the university during the GUP process may be new news to the folks who are now on the team, given the number of changes that have taken place there. And I think it would be a shame if we had to go through some of the painful exercises that we went through during that period. Ms. Gallegos, I'm looking at you again because I'm remembering when, for example, the university issued a press release on June 24th of 2019, claiming a $4.7 billion package of benefits. You then responded by saying, well, actually, the real value of that is 168 million, which was roughly 4% of the claimed benefit. And, as I look at some of the arguments that the university has made in its comments to our board and our committee and to the planning commission more particularly, I just feel like we're going down some of the same paths again. And I don't think that's going to be productive. I don't think it's productive for the university, who has told us they want to do a reset and who, I would like to take that at face value. So Ms. Efner, I have a question for the university representatives today. Who should I direct that question to? You or Ms. Odell or Ms. Klein or Mr. Berman?
Nancy, can you help facilitate that answer?
I see a hand raised by Erin Efner. I will unmute her.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
I'll jump in, and perhaps my colleague Kelly may want to also jump in. I mean, you're absolutely right, Supervisor Schmidt, in that there's some new faces here, but we are supported by folks who have been around the university for a long time, and I spent the past 18 months personally, getting up to speed on how the 2016/18 GUP process went. So we are trying to be cognizant of that process as we move forward. I mean, I think some of the issues that we've brought up are not meant to necessarily relitigate that process, but areas where we do feel that we would like to have an opportunity to engage in some discussions where we wind up with policies that are flexible enough that we can comply with, once we eventually have an application.
Ms. Efner, I'm going to direct my question to you then. It is understood at the county level by, I think, all parties, rarely do I think I can speak for all parties at the county level, it is understood that Stanford will be pursuing additional development on Stanford's 8,000 acres, 4,000 of which are in the unincorporated county. I think it is a statement of the obvious, but let me say it anyway. That development will inevitably have impacts on the surrounding communities as identified in the environmental review process pursuant to CEQA. Now, the question, of course, is how do we address those impacts? And there are really only 3 possibilities. And, Ms. Anshano or Ms. Gallegos, feel free to lean in if I've missed them. But either Stanford can be responsible for mitigating its own impacts, or the cost of mitigating those impacts can be borne by surrounding communities, or the impacts can go unmitigated and traffic and housing problems can get worse. Is it the university's position that the university should reasonably be expected to address the cost of the impacts of its development rather than either let the situation get worse or push the cost off on surrounding communities? That's a fairly straightforward question, but it really was the basis of the tangle we had for a great many years.
Yes, I would say that we are want to mitigate the impacts that Stanford is, the growth at the Stanford campus is potentially causing in the surrounding area. I think the discussion needs to be around what are those impacts, and if we can come to some agreement on what those are, I think that's a good direction to go in our future discussions.
All right. Well, please know, because we haven't had a chance to work together, and we're going to have this get to know each other conversation here in an open and public session, and that's all to the good, that the expectation is simply that the university mitigate the impacts of its own development. I think the county has been very clear, and as the district supervisor, I've certainly been very clear that it would not be appropriate or even lawful to expect Stanford to mitigate impacts unrelated to its own development. We've been very rigorous about that here at the county, and I would say intellectually honest. But the flip side is the university has to acknowledge that it has an obligation to mitigate the impacts of its own development. That's why you kept hearing people talk about full mitigation during the GUP process. And as I said earlier, there are only two other options. Either we let traffic and housing get worse. I don't think anybody thinks that's an acceptable or appropriate option. Or you push those costs off on other communities in San Mateo and Santa Clara County, which I also don't think is appropriate. Having said all that, I think the county has repeatedly demonstrated its willingness to consider greater degrees of flexibility. But flexibility doesn't mean loopholes. And we need to be very clear about that. And, the reason I mentioned the claimed $4.7 billion package worth of benefits is that was not, in my view, the behavior of a good faith actor. And when our own staff comes back and says, well, no, it overstates the matter by 96%, which is what our staff came back and told the board, it makes it hard to think that efforts to provide flexibility are going to be met in good faith. Can you understand the concern I'm trying to articulate? Because I don't want you or us to go through that again.
Your context is very helpful. Yes, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
All right. And as I say, if, during that 3-year process, I know that Supervisor Chavez and I said yes, Mr. Chairman, back to take yes for an answer, said yes to every request for every meeting we were ever asked to participate in by anybody at any level at the university. But we can't go through that exercise again if we don't have reciprocity on the issues of good faith. And if it sounds like I'm being a little pointed, it's because I am, because I really do want to see a reset. And the last thing I'll say, in addition to I look forward to these issues being resolved this calendar year, is I've made my home in what we now call the 5th Supervisorial District for 50 years. I am absolutely convinced of the extraordinarily important role that the university has played and continues to play in the vitality of the North County, the Bay Area, and the state generally. No one has to make a believer of me on that. So I want the university to be successful, but it cannot and will not be successful if we don't get some real understanding and acceptance of the need to fully mitigate any adverse impacts associated with additional development. If we can get some understanding and acceptance of that, we can make real progress, and the university can continue to prosper and thrive and be the extraordinary force for good that it has been. But if we can't get that buy-in, and if we can't get that behavior, it's not going to happen. So if it sounds like I'm anxious about that, it's because I am. So that being said, I would simply exhort the folks at Stanford to keep that in mind, and I'm happy to offer a motion to receive the report and direct staff.
Can I make, Supervisor Schmidt, may I make one more final comment here? I just want to reiterate that we are extraordinarily committed to a reset. I mean, I've primarily worked with planning staff, because we've been working through the community plan process, and that's who's developed, and M Group, of course, that's who's developing its body of work. But I think that we have made good strides with our communication and openness and collaboration. So I just want to reiterate that that's something that we're taking seriously, myself and my colleague Kelly Klein in government affairs. And we will continue to work to reset those relationships.
Thank you for that, Ms. Efner. Thank you, Ms. Klein. Thank you to your whole team, and Supervisor Wasserman. I am happy to move that we receive the report and direct staff to bring back the items for action that have been identified prior to the end of this calendar year.
Thank you, and I will second that motion. And I agree with all that you said. Thank you for being so eloquent.
Thank you, sir.
Nancy, roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Smidian.
Aye.
And Chairperson Wasserman.
Aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we move on to item number 5, which is also to receive a report from our Planning and Development Department and our Ag Commissioner. I'm looking on my screen.
Mr. Davini is here. I think he needs to.
There he
go.
is. Good morning, Joseph. Long time no see. And this is an update on the Williamson Act, Farmland Security Zones, and the Open Space Easement Programs.
Thank you, Supervisor Wasserman, Chairperson Wasserman. We have with us today Michael Meehan, Principal Planner, and Joseph Davini, our Ag Commissioner. I believe I'm going to turn the presentation over to both Michael Meehan and Joe Davini. We do not have a formal presentation as far as a PowerPoint, but they will give a verbal update. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Michael Meehan, Principal Planner with the department. As Director Anciano mentioned, we don't have a formal presentation today. I do have some background slides available if we'd like to go over any of the proposed changes. A brief overview, just that this item or these proposed changes are unchanged really from November of 2020 when we brought this proposal before the Hewlett Committee. I believe it was on consent at that time, and nothing has changed in the proposal. It was on hold for reasons explained in the report, largely having to do with the Coyote Valley overlay zone, and I can respond to any questions on that as well. But functionally, these proposed amendments would do two things. They would streamline our compatible use determination process, thanks to amendments that were made in January of 2020 in how we process our existing contracts through the annual questionnaire and other improvements that were made by the board at that time. We're able to streamline our compatible use determination process. As a reminder, the compatible use determination, or CUD, as we often refer to it, is the necessary process for a contracted parcel in the Williamson Act program to make a development of any kind on their property, whether it's ag related or otherwise, to ensure compliance with the contract. And we're proposing efforts to make that a more easeful process for the property owners as well as staff. And the other component is a modification of our definitions for commercial agriculture. The definitions for commercial agriculture are what are used to enlist new parcels as well as ensure ongoing compliance. The original expectation presented to the board as part of this program is that these definitions would be changed periodically. And I don't believe that these have been changed at this time since 2006. And so the proposal aims to make it more comprehensible to prospective applicants as well as staff of both the Ag Commissioner's Office as well as the Department of Planning. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I also, as mentioned, have slides available if we'd like to refer to any of the changes proposed.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And Joseph, before I turn to you, I just want to thank both of you for your continued and in-depth outreach to the ag community, be it the Farm Bureau, be it all of the farmers that you have on your respective emailing lists. I think it's very, very, very important just like the residents with the prior Stanford issue. These are the residents of the areas that are being affected by what's being proposed. And it's very important that A, they know what is going on and why, and B, that they have the knowledge of how to respond or to send their comments where and when. So I appreciate that. I know Supervisor Schmidt and I each are very much advocates for communication with the public and not having something done and then people saying they never heard about it. So please, thank you for what you've done thus far, and please continue your extensive outreach to the ag community. Mr. Deviney, your turn.
My apologies for the interruption. I see two Mr. Devineys on the screen, and if I could get the second one to identify themselves and I can rename them.
I see the picture of the one I know.
Yes, and I see a second one that's blacked out with the name. Have you logged in twice?
That might be my coworker.
That's okay. We just need to identify.
Yes. Yeah. Nina or Erica, is that you on the call today? I must have accidentally sent my link to you.
Okay, so
I think that's the answer, though. That's the only way they could have gotten it.
Okay, let's leave them on.
Calendar. Yeah,
that's quite all right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to thank Michael for all of his in-depth research on building this, and my coworker Lori Olson, who had dealt with Williamson Act all the way back for 20 years, all through the days when we had difficulties, refinement. So in some of the things we've done more recently, it's pretty obvious we have a lot of parcels that are 10 acres or less. And then when you think about the ecosystem services and all the different things we're trying to accomplish with saving and preserving and protecting agriculture, it just made sense to have it more accessible to those smaller farmers who are just getting started. So I think the way that Michael has presented this, even though it might seem like there might be openings for abuse, it's definitely the opposite. There's definitely commercial aspects to it that are even more strict. And then the allowances for the grazing, I think, make a lot more sense. The compatible use has always been a kind of a cumbersome thing for us and whoever's trying for it. The new proposal is very much streamlined for everybody involved and makes a lot of sense too. So I'm fully in agreement with all the stuff that Michael put together, and he worked closely with my office and my experts in building it.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Smidian, we have one speaker waiting to speak. Okay with you if we hear from that individual first?
Sure thing, and then I would be happy to comment just briefly, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Nancy, allow our speaker in, please, for 2 minutes.
Yes, Bear Bleakman. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for this item. An interesting factoid for yourselves, I think. The city of Davis, to bring them up again, they have a really they have a good surveillance and technology ordinance program that their wildlife trails and wildlife habitat areas with surveillance and technology can be a lot of help in how you will be developing the future of Coyote Valley. And I just thought it would be a time to mention the good work they've done towards that in openness and accountability practices. With that said, a reminder, thank you for the words of Supervisor Samidi in the previous item. I tried to offer a bit of our past about to rely on UC Davis area for future development. They have a kind of a farm mentality. It sounds like, the questions now, how do we develop a more busy commercialized future for the Stanford area? And places like UC Santa Barbara and UC Irvine can be examples in that respect. Good luck how to use all sorts of tools and understandings to come to group understandings at this time. good luck in your efforts, and thanks for the reports from everyone.
Thank you, Blair.
Our next speaker is Brian Schmidt. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Brian Schmidt here with Green Foothills. And we do not oppose the changes that are being proposed. I do have a note of caution. There was a compatible use determination by the county last year where we supported an appeal against that determination. There were a number of problems with this project. It was out by Morgan Hill, where they were basically encroaching on endangered species habitat. And they also done some illegal cutting of trees in that area. And there's some other problems with the project as well. And it just did not seem like a well-reviewed project. And the CUD determination seemed like the right time to do a good job on that. Fortunately, the applicant, as far as I know, abandoned their project when it was appealed, or as far as I know, nothing's happened with it. Staff didn't catch the problem. So I am a little concerned when we're talking about streamlining, that some of these problems might be missed. I'm not going to say don't do it. It's just a note of caution that I want to leave there. And I'd be happy to forward our letter that we sent to this on this, if that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
And that concludes our public comment.
Thank you, Nancy. Supervisor Simidian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am happy to wait for a motion from you if you'd like to make one and then comment very briefly.
Thank you. The action is only to receive reports, so I don't have a motion besides, I don't have a motion, just a further comment. Thank you for what you're doing. I like the direction we're going. I already stressed the point about communication, so that everybody knows what's going on and everybody has a chance to provide their input or feedback. Thank you, Supervisor Simidian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will just say, I think we have a fairly limited array of tools to address these issues of ag preservation. And the Williamson Act, however imperfect it may be, is one of the very few tools we have, and I'm glad we have it. I think we understand there's a cost associated with it. We accept that. And I do very much want to associate myself with your remarks about community outreach being robust and continuing. I think sometimes we think when a decision is made, the community engagement stops. And in many cases, it's really the occasion when we need to redouble. So I associate myself with your remarks and say thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll consider that one received and praised. Keep up the good work. All right, item number 6, to receive an annual report from the Department of Plan and Development relating to the status of county surface mining and Reclamation Act programs. Jacqueline.
Good morning, Chairperson Wasserman and Supervisor Schmidt. Jacqueline Unchannel, Director of Planning and Development. We have with us today to give an oral summary Rob Salisbury, Senior Planner with our department. So I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Salisbury.
Rob? Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Director Anchano, and thank you, Chairperson Wasserman and Supervisor Simidian. So I'll keep it brief here and just provide a brief overview of what we did in 2021 and what we're hoping to accomplish in 2022. During 2021, as normal, we conducted an annual inspection of all 5 quarries in Santa Clara County. And we continued and did conduct monthly inspections of both Stevens Creek Quarry and Lehigh Quarry. During those monthly inspections, we look at best management practices and in the case of Stevens Creek Quarry, their compliance with their use permit conditions of approval. For 2021, we retained the services of a consultant to assist us in financial assurance cost estimate review for Lehigh Quarry. And we're going to be expanding that this year and retain consultant assistance in reviewing financial assurance cost estimates for both Stevens Creek Quarry and Lehigh Quarry for this current calendar year. We will also be looking forward and are looking forward to assisting Supervisor Simidian in the Lehigh community meeting that occurs in February and March of each year. And we'll be, looking to generally make other improvements to the program as we move forward. We have hired a new county geologist who I believe will be starting in the end of this month. This new county geologist will be attending both the Lehigh and Stevens Creek Quarry annual inspections that are scheduled for September. And that our current county geologist, Jim Baker, will also be attending, so we can have some transfer of institutional knowledge and expertise. And that'll greatly assist our new county geologist in getting up to speed on the quarry program and the unique issues that both of those quarries present. So with that brief overview, I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Simidian, yes.
Thank you. And forgive me, I, like the couple of members of the public, am struggling today to find the raise hand function on the screen. I apologize. Couple of comments and then questions. First, I was pleased to hear and want to be supportive of staff's inclination to continue to use outside expertise in calculating the financial assurance cost estimate, sometimes shortened to FACE. I think this, at the risk of stating the obvious, perhaps, this SMART stuff is very complicated, and we really do benefit from having outside expertise to assist in calculating these numbers, so that, as I've said in the past, in a less eloquent way, Mr. Chairman, the taxpayers don't get stuck holding the bag when the time comes to pay for all this. I'm also pleased to hear that staff is inclined to expand the use of professional consultants to that end beyond just Lehigh and including Stevens Creek. I think, I think the experience that staff has now developed coordinating with consultants, this work is informative in terms of how they go forward with other sites. And so I'm pleased to see the potential for expanded use. I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly. It sounds to me like that's a process that may be opened up to some kind of competitive process in terms of who the actual consultant is. Did I infer correctly, or did I imagine that? Mr. Salisbury, anybody else?
You are correct. At this time, we're anticipating a competitive process. Yes.
Yeah, I think that just, generally the desired approach, and was curious to make sure I understood it correctly. Now, and Mr. Salisbury, if you want to kick this one upstairs, I'm going to let you when the time comes for the question. But I was, of course, intrigued by the fact that we heard back from the state regarding what they deemed to be deficiencies, inadequacies in the determination of the financial assurance cost estimate. The folks at Lehigh had initially, if I'm reading the numbers correctly, suggested that the number $63,011,825 was the correct number. After a review by staff and our consultants, that number did not go up appreciably, $63,418,820. And it's not that $400,000 is inconsequential, but certainly as a percentage of the total amount, wasn't a dramatic increase. That being said, as I read carefully, and I did, the letter from the state, it looked to me like they had a whole lot of areas where they were looking for what I'll call a more robust or rigorous determination of cost in connection with the FACE. Did I read that right?
I would say that's accurate, yes.
Do we have any idea how much that is or is likely to be, or do we just wait and see what happens after Lehigh responds to the letter you sent in response to the state's letter?
It's very hard to say what kind of dollar amount change those inadequacies represent. So we will just have to wait and see what we get back from Lehigh.
All right. Well, I want to, through the chair, exhort the staff to please stay on it as you have been. I think we're trying to up our game. I think the efforts you have made to up our game are helpful and important. The state is, and I say this with only a small sense of irony, the state is trying to help us up our game. So I'm going to welcome that help. Please stay on it. It's important, not just for this site, but because it will inform, as it already has, I think, the work on other sites. And, as I read the letter here, I don't know if this is, this additional investigation will be $250,000 or $2.5 million or $5 million. But again, it's important that we both be fair to the operator, which we want to do because it's the right thing to do and for legal reasons. But also, as I said earlier, make sure that the public doesn't get stuck holding the bag when the time comes to actually make good on these items. I think, if there are any documents that can be posted on the website in connection with this, I know we've heard a little from the public about that, back to the sort of public engagement and outreach concern that permeates all our discussions. If there are any documents that are out there that can be posted in connection with this, I think we have found that going the extra mile on transparency has been helpful and important in working with the public on these issues as well. So let's please make sure we do that. Let me pivot, however, to Stevens Creek and be a little more pointed again, to use my earlier word, Mr. Chair. I will say I found the staff summaries quite helpful because the brevity of them, I think, helped force staff to cut to the chase on some of this stuff in a way that is hard to do. So thank you and well done. It's hard to do because these things go on and on and on. So let me just ask staff, and that includes Ms. Anchano and Ms. Gallegos, if they would like to lean in. I am looking at the language on packet page 21, which is page 5 of 7 in the staff report, and under Stevens Creek Quarry now. And it indicates 2/3 of the way down the page, I'm going to read the verbatim, the use permit for Stevens Creek. The use permit was renewed on February 18th, 1995 for 20 years. And the owner applied for a renewal on December 29th, 2014. However, the use permit hearing was continued at the request of the department and never rescheduled for a hearing. Am I correct in reading that to say that the folks at Stevens Creek literally did not apply for a new permit until roughly 6 weeks before the expiration of their 20-year permit?
That is correct.
Okay, let me just say, I think that is unfortunate, regrettable, and disappointing. Those are the 3 words I would use to characterize that long ago decision. Having said that, the report goes on to say, as such, the use permit expired, which we have discussed previously in this committee. And it says the quarry continues to operate legally without a use permit pursuant to a compliance agreement. Now, it goes on at the very bottom of the page to say the county deemed the use permit and reclamation plan amendment application, presumably from Stevens Creek Quarry, complete on December 8th, 2021. Now, does that mean that it took 7 years from the end of 2014 to the end of 2021 to get a complete and adequate application for the new use permit?
They submitted a brand new application unrelated to their December 29, 2014 filing. But yes, it took that long to deem the application complete from September 21st, 2020 to December 8th, 2021.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I need clarification. Supervisor, was your question, did it take 7 years or
I
did it
think
take
what-
14 months?
I think what Mr. Salisbury is saying is, yes, it did take 7 years, but part of the reason it took 7 years is because they changed horses in the middle of the stream with a new application following the earlier application. Did I get that right, Mr. Salisbury?
Correct.
Thank you.
So, and now the scope and bid for the required EIR is currently being finalized, after which work on the EIR will begin. Now, based on my experience, Mr. Salisbury, and I'm not laying this at your doorstep, you just happen to be the person who's making the presentation today. That's a process that's going to take 3 years.
I think 3 years is a conservative estimate, but it's a possibility. We're hoping for less, but it could be that.
Which means that it will be 10 years or close to it of operation without a valid permit. Ms. Anchano, Ms. Gallegos, I'm going to kick this one upstairs myself. Is that an accurate statement on my part?
Jacqueline Anchano, Director of Planning and Development. That's an accurate statement. But the compliance agreement, C-171, gives us this ability to have a landowner operate when they have entered into a voluntary compliance agreement, where we set the parameters of how that operation would move forward. And we set guidelines for milestones that are to be met.
Yeah, my concern, Ms. Anchano, and I'm going to use a boxing term, which I rarely, if ever, do, and I rarely, if ever, fall back on sports metaphors, even though I know they're Mr. Wasserman's favorites.
I'm waiting.
But I remember in his prior Zooms, when he was in a different office, a picture of Muhammad Ali over his shoulder. And that calls to mind, Mr. Wasserman, the phrase rope-a-dope. And I am concerned that we are being rope-a-doped for 10 years through the use of these various tools. You know, folks are supposed to have a valid permit, and they don't. And they deliberately waited until 6 weeks before the expiration of 20-year permit. They had 20 years to file an application for a new permit. They instead waited till the last 6 weeks. Then they, you know, everybody moved slowly. And as Mr. Salisbury indicates, they offered up a new application, which just made things sort of go back to, you know, start all over again time. And here we are now looking at, as they say, a decade of operation. I understand there's a compliance agreement, but there's not a valid permit. And, you know, I'll be gone. Mr. Wasserman will be gone. I'm sitting here thinking, what assurances do we have, and does the community have, that this won't be a conversation that goes on and on and on? How do we bring some certainty to a determination to this at a time certain? And if we need legal counsel to step in, please do, because I can't keep saying we're working on it. That's not an acceptable answer to me, and I don't think it should be an acceptable answer to anybody, frankly.
Yeah, if I may, we have built in, and Rob Salisbury, you can pull up or you can correct me. We have built in milestones that we don't anticipate this being an ongoing conversation for 10 years. We do share your concern, Supervisor, with the utilization of the tools that have been afforded to the quarries and this particular landowner, but we have built in milestones that we're working with County Council will bring an end to this ongoing saga.
Do those milestones include cutting a check for an EIR in a timely fashion?
Rob, is that built in? Do we say in that compliance agreement that the EIR funding has to be submitted by a certain time?
Compliance agreement did not get into EIR production milestones, but there is a date by which the quarry operator has to have received a decision from the Planning Commission on their use permit and their reclamation plan amendment.
And what is that
Advisor.
date, Mr. Salisbury?
April 23rd, 2023.
And what happens if they haven't got a decision by that date?
We could levy fines.
Which becomes a cost of doing business rather than a real impetus to either get a valid permit or go out of business.
Right. We could come back with you to you, Supervisor. I believe we also have the ability to, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, to take the permit forward with a recommendation of revocation, but there's a process for that. It's not something that can be done right away. Is that correct, Rob? That is a tool that's available through a process for us.
Correct. We could work with the Planning Commission to schedule them for revocation hearing. I would like to consult with County Council because as we've just been discussing, they don't technically have a use permit at the moment. So I'm not sure whether a revocation hearing would be the appropriate tool. So I would like to discuss that, get some input from County Council on that. But I do know that we have, additional tools available if we're not satisfied with their performance.
Let me, if I may, Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. Our council, who we work with to prepare compliance agreements, and it's a partnership, to my knowledge, aren't here today. I think it would be a more fruitful conversation to have if we could have them available. So if there's an interest to continue the discussion at September Hewlett or some other forum, we're happy to do that.
Are we just in an unfortunate position of not having County Council on the call today, in the meeting today, Ms. Gallegos? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, I think Steve Mitra will respond.
I mean, I'm here, Supervisor Smitty, and I'm covering for my colleague.
Well, Mr. Mitra, you're kind of a big deal. I don't think we should dismiss you like that.
It's just that, I'm covering for my colleague, Tony Lopresti, who had to be away, but I am happy to try and answer whatever questions I can, and if not, to take them back. And I would say that Deputy County Executive Sylvia Gallegos is correct, that the people who normally work on this are not present right now.
Well, let me, through the chair, if I may, offer a motion, Mr. Wasserman, and if staff has further comment on the motion, I of course am anxious to hear it. But what I'd like to do is, in addition to the motion, which is simply to receive the report, direct staff to bring this issue back at our next meeting of the committee, if the chair is amenable, for further discussion about how to resolve the outstanding issues at Stevens Creek by a date certain. I'll just leave it at that. And direct County Council in the interim to provide a confidential memo as to legal options and tools that might be available to achieve that end in the interim, so that when we go into that meeting, we're not starting all over again with hey, what's the situation here? Mr. Mitra, does that sound like it would work for your office?
Yes, it does.
Thank you for that, sir. Ms. Gallegos, Ms. Anchano, does that sound like it would work for the planning team?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. All right, then that is my motion, Supervisor Wasserman, and then I have just one more comment if there's a second on the motion.
Thank you. First of all, I'll note the next meeting, just to be specific in the motion, is September 15th. And I do second your motion. And I think what we're asking about, if I understood correctly, was permit revocation during a time when a compliance agreement is in place. Is that correct, Supervisor Smitty and Mr. Salisbury?
I would clarify that a little, Mr. Chair. I'm not predisposed one way or the other with respect to permit revocation.
Okay, so options.
There is, and I think this was the point of some of the back and forth with staff. There's no permit to revoke. There's a compliance agreement, but there's no permit to revoke.
Correct.
I went through a somewhat similar experience in the year 2000. Ms. Gallegos is the institutional memory on this one with me, with the Mountain Winery that had been operating for years with no permit. And we finally just said, you know what, that's not an acceptable state of affairs. We got to get a permit in place. There have to be conditions of approval, and it's got to operate in a rigorous way. So this one's a little different because they did have a permit, but 7 years has come and gone, and I
Sure.
really do think we're looking at 3 years based on, the history of the last decade in terms of how long things take, and no guarantee that then we have an outcome. So I'm wanting to have
I understand.
date certain. So thank you for. Now I'm sure you're sorry you asked, Mr. Chairman.
So no, that's okay. You used to say to me, if you keep going, I'll say no.
So I'm going to stop.
Good.
So I'm going to say thank you for the.
That's a good idea.
Thank you for the second. I do just want to say this one more thing, and I promise it's one sentence. It's time to wrap this up, everybody.
Okay, thank you. And I do want to let you know, I've been through 3 compliance agreements with various organizations in the last 5 years in my district, all of which had permits and the compliance. So I'm very, very familiar, thanks to the planning and building department leadership for educating me, as well as our county council and Sylvia Gallegos, getting me through 3 different examples. I think a compliance agreement is an excellent tool for us to have in our toolbox and to be used appropriately when appropriate. I do have an enormous 12-year concern about what's been occurring at Lehigh. And I also have a concern that the dollar amounts for, it's not mitigation, what is it? To make the land right. What's the word?
Reclamation.
Reclamation.
The reclamation number that was obtained a few years ago, knowing what I do about construction the last couple of years, I'm very concerned that number is significantly low. And I will leave it at that. So we have a motion, we have a second. Before we're taking a vote, though, we do have 2 speakers. Nancy, please allow those 2 speakers in for 2 minutes each before the supervisor and I make up our minds.
Absolutely. Our first speaker is Rhoda Fry. I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
The public could benefit from more information pertaining to this report and receiving information more timely. This report covers 2021, and here we are 3/4 of the way into 2022. First, do know that per a recent front page article in the New York Times, the chances of catastrophic flooding in California is greater than a catastrophic earthquake. At Stevens Creek Quarry, there are several unpermitted dams that are holding back significant amounts of flowable material. One dam is so large that it is under the Department of Water Resources jurisdiction. These dams need to be engineered to prevent Stevens Canyon Road from washing out at Stevens Creek Reservoir during a major storm. Even of greater concern is Lehigh's Eager Yard landslide, which is a known health and safety hazard to structures and homes downstream. The report refers to a geologic study, and it needs to be made available. Please ask planning to post the geological report. Second, can you please clarify whether county planning is entertaining the possibility of Stevens Creek Quarry processing importing material under a new conditional use permit? Thank you, Supervisor Simidian, for your comments regarding the conditional use permit. Stevens Creek needs to have true land use authority. Please also allow us to compare the original compliance dates with revised dates, along with comprehensive report of the quarry's omnibus of violations and resolution thereof. I would like to add that we are experiencing unpermitted and excessive queuing of trucks. Third, thank you, Supervisor Simidian, for drilling down on Lehigh's financial assurance. The state determined that the amount of fill required to fill the pit is underestimated. Meanwhile, the county has allowed Lehigh to sell off aggregate from the new rock plant without a new conditional use permit. This operation is not vested. This material could be used to fulfill the promises of the 2012 reclamation plan to fill the pit with on-site material. Furthermore, Backman's legal team has permitted this under very questionable circumstances. Please read my comments. You're just going to have to read my comments. Finally, Lehigh reclamation is overdue. We got to reclaim. Thank you. And I wish you gave us 3 minutes.
Thank you, Rhoda. Next.
Next speaker is Blair Beekman. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. thanks for the earnestness of Supervisor Semidian and how he's trying to address this complicated issue and how the current quarry operation is, you're just going through a continuous cycle with this permitting process that I feel is basically it's compromising good environmental impact reports and practices that the previous caller mentioned, who gave a very good report, by the way. Thank you for her words as well. Yeah, it's just Supervisor Semidian mentioned the concept of rope-a-dope. I feel it's been like a three-ring circus almost, and where things are going on and it's like it's allowing you know, you want to offer good guidelines and good governance as a county, but it's this permitting process that's going on and on and on. It's just allowing this this quarry to have their way, basically, and not respecting environmental practices well, that I think in the end the county has to be responsible for and is a participant in allowing this sort of mistakes to happen. And so I understand fully that Supervisor Semidian wants to work to clean that all up now. And I think it's just vitally important to invite the community, the public at this time to the process to really hold accountable what the future of this quarry situation can be and what will be its impacts. And it's with that said that I think we have to be very wary of the quarry that wants to be opened in the South Bay in Gilroy area. There's real questionable practices going on here that I don't think we're responsible enough for the South Bay quarry. Please work on these issues and work with the public. Thanks.
And that concludes public comment.
And that unmutes me. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Nancy, roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Semidian.
Aye.
And Chairperson Wasserman.
Aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move on to item 8, which is to receive a report from the Santa Clara County Central Fire Protection District relating to identification of potential alternative revenue sources, estimates of operational revenues, and funding sources for the creation of a Service Zone 3 at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Ames Research Center, NASA.
Excuse me, Supervisor Chairperson Wasserman.
Yes.
Item 7, the report from Parks and Recreation and Planning.
It was put on consent.
You put that
Oh,
on.
it was on consent. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, though. Always keep an eye on me. All right, item number 8, the one we just said, and I see Chief Kurtgow. Welcome. And you're up, Chief.
Good morning. Good morning, Chairperson Wasserman and Vice Chairperson Swana Kurtgow with Santa Clara County Fire Chief. With me today and available to provide additional information as needed, Brian Glass, the Assistant Fire Chief for the department, Veronica Nebla, Director of Business Services for the department, Tris Sheldon, the Lead Deputy County Counsel, and David Tessig, CEO and President of the consulting firm DTA. Per the request of Supervisor Semidian at the March 9th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting, the Fire District has returned to Hewlett today with potential alternative revenue sources, estimate of revenue needed, and sources of funding related to the proposed Zone 3. The legislative file and the accompanying fiscal impact analysis report prepared by DTA identified potential alternative revenue sources, estimates of the revenues needed, and sources of payments for Service Zone 3. Again, this is the proposed Service Zone 3. The DTA FIA report found that revenues currently available to fund Service Zone 3 are inadequate to cover all of the associated costs. Without the ability to access additional funding sources for Service Zone 3, it appears that the Fire District will experience a significant shortfall in revenues versus costs generated in this service zone, should the Fire District theoretically be required to provide fire protection services to the existing and future development in the NASA Ames project area. The Fire District's recommendation remains to create this Service Zone 3, and the creation of the Service Zone will allow the Fire District to equitably allocate the cost of providing services in Service Zone 3 to the property owners in the zone, and not result in increased costs or decreased levels of service in areas of county fires jurisdiction not within Zone 3. The benefits of the fire district and its residents as a whole, the benefits are to the fire district and to the residents as a whole. The key takeaway from the report, the FIA report, is the identification of the fiscal shortfall under each scenario, further supporting the establishment of Service Zone 3. Today, we, County Fire, are before the committee with the following 2 recommended actions. First is to receive the report from the fire district, identifying the potential alternative revenue sources, estimates of operational revenues needed, and sources of funding for Service Zone 3. And also to approve the fire district's administration to return to the board of directors for consideration and the adoption of a resolution initiating proceedings and setting a public hearing date to consider the formation of Service Zone 3 at NASA Ames Research Center. I can go into further details on the specifics of the report or pause here to take any questions you have on the FIA report.
Thank you, Chief. I would like you to pause, please. This was quite the report to read. Page 7 with the alternatives 1 and 2 I found especially interesting, and I appreciate the options that you put forth and the conditions, such as the assumptions of existing equipment staying in place. Supervisor Simidian, your questions that you may have.
Thank you, and I am prepared to offer a motion in a minute. I just wanted to ask,
Yep.
First of all, I want to say thank you for the report. It is responsive to the request I made in March of 21. The question I would have is, at this point, how quickly can we get it in front of the board? That's a serious question. That's not a rhetorical question.
Chief.
With that, I will defer to Veronica. How quickly could we get this in front of the board?
We could move forward with bringing back the resolution to the board to start the process again at the either the first or second meeting in September.
Okay.
All right. Well, then I will move the recommended action, which is not only to receive the report, but to, as the chief said, and thank you to staff for the follow-up clarification, to receive the report and then forward the resolution to the board. And I'm going to say at the earliest opportunity, by which I mean no later than September. So I want to put that in the motion, at the earliest opportunity, no later than September.
Excuse me, sir. When you say no later than September, so you're open to either meeting in September, correct?
Yeah, and that's my way of saying I'd like the first meeting, but if it can't be the first meeting, no later than the second meeting, if that's a little clearer. That is, I want to make that part of the motion. And I'd also like to ask Mr. Wasserman if we could send it with a favorable recommendation from the committee, if you're agreeable.
Yes.
To give the chief some wind at her sails as the item comes to. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
That's my motion.
And I'm seconding that motion. That was clear. And again, I really appreciate the reports that are provided. I see DTA, financialdta.com up in the corners, the presentation by the company. I think you've just done an excellent job, Veronica and everybody else involved that put all this together. Thank you very, very much. Chief Glass, nice seeing you as well. All right, we've got a motion and a second. We have one speaker. Nancy.
Blair Beekman, I am unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for your patience for myself today. This is my day to appear at public comment time, so thanks. It's nice to be around, and sorry to be a little strong on the previous item. I just think public oversight can be a real helpful thing for yourselves on the previous item. For this item, I just wanted to, you've had real difficult times figuring out the future of fire issues, fire department issues, North County issues, and this item sounds like it could be a bit helpful and to make things easier to understand for yourselves in the future. Good luck in future endeavors with this sort of item. And I just wanted to take this time that I'm really trying to learn how to speak at the public comment time, to still ask the questions. Do we have a major natural disaster like an earthquake to expect in 2023? And if we don't, do we or don't we? I'm not sure, but to mention it here can give yourselves thought and pause about how to prepare and what exactly to prepare for. So I hope I just don't know, but to simply offer a few words can be of help in some way to yourselves at this time. And as always, the ideas of racial equity and health and human services, I think, can be more important components than law enforcement and fire in learning to address our natural disasters and whatever we have to face in the next decade. Good luck in those efforts. And I think we're entering a new era of idealism, how to talk about racial equity and health and human services to address our issues. And good luck in those efforts, how it can relate to fire and law enforcement. Thanks.
Thank you, Blair. And let me say, Santa Clara County has the finest in law enforcement, public safety, fire, hospital system, on and on and on, our operational area council, and our SVRIA communication system with over a dozen agencies collaborating together to provide the residents of Santa Clara County the finest public safety system in the world. I'm going out on a limb, and if anybody doesn't like my saying that, don't vote for me in the next election. All right.
Chairperson Wasserman.
Tell me I'm muted, Christopher. Tell me I was muted.
You're not muted.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm getting a reach out on through other channels for clarification on the process to the board. I think the clerk of the board's trying to reach me. Since we didn't continue the hearing at the last consideration by the Board of Supervisors, and it was referred to Hewlett, the state law for creation of service zones will require the board to adopt a resolution setting a new hearing date, and then we will give notice to the property owners, and then we will conduct the hearing. And we did that the last time, and at the hearing, Supervisor Schmidt asked it to go to Hewlett. So it is a two-step process because we need to renotice the hearing, and I think that's what the clerk's trying to ask me. So probably September and then into October for the second hearing.
Thank you. I think we're going to have a revised motion right now in a two-step process. Supervisor Schmidt, how do you wish to revise?
Yeah, I'm happy to revise the motion to that effect, but I need to get clarity from Mr. Chellan. How long is this going to take? Because it's been since March 9th of 2021. So how long? I thought I heard you say, even with that notice requirement, we can still get to it in October, yes?
I believe so, yes, depending on Veronica and staff resources. It'll just be a two-step process.
Yeah, I don't want it to be depending on staff resources. Forgive me. I'm trying to be clear as I can be. No later than the end of October. That's
thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And I'll second that revised motion. Nancy, roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairperson Schmidt.
Aye.
And Chairperson Wasserman.
Aye as well.
Mr. Wasserman, before we go
Yes,
on,
sir.
I just have to ask, no later than October means no later. Why can't that two-step process happen in September?
We can. We just need 2 meetings, is what he's saying. If Veronica can bring it back to us in the first meeting in September, Christopher, correct me if I'm wrong, we could schedule the second reading in the second meeting in September.
I need to look at the statute to see if there's a minimum amount of time for the notice, but to the extent we can do 10-day notice, then yeah, we'll try to do it in back-to-back board meetings.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chellan, I'm just going to put it directly. Do I need to offer up another motion or can we just count on everybody's good faith efforts to make that happen if it's legally possible?
There's no need for another motion. I'll be on the phone with Veronica immediately after this meeting trying to make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I'm sure that it will. Yeah, when you said it, this has been since March, I thought, okay, and then you said 2021, and I went, oops. So I understand your angst. We'll get this done, Supervisor. Okay, with that said, items 9 through 13 were also handled in consent. Item 14 is to adjourn this meeting to September 15th at 10 a.m. It says in the chambers, I don't believe that's going to happen, but either way, we will meet on September 15th at 10 o'clock, and you'll all have adequate notice as to how to make that happen. Enjoy the rest of your day, Supervisor Smitty, and always a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.